All right, so today I'm going to be talking to you about just general practice tips and strategies. The first and probably the most important tip is to always stay focused when you're practicing. And that's going to be different for everyone. Some people can focus for longer chunks of time, and some people can only focus for shorter chunks of time, and that's okay. Everyone's different. It's just about learning what works best for you. Some people also find that they focus better at certain times of day than others. If you can structure your practice time around those times of day, that's a really good strategy as well. Now, you may not always be able to because, of course, we all have classes and other life events that we have to take care of. But if you can, especially if you're later in your degree program and you don't have as many classes left, I think that's a really good strategy. Another good thing to think about with that is, where do you focus the best? Some people focus really well in the School of Music practice rooms, and some people find that they get really, really distracted there because their friends come up and want to talk to them. So maybe practicing at your home is actually better if you live around here. Another thing could be, when I was a student, I really liked to practice in classrooms because it made me feel like I was more in a performance setting, which helped me focus. And that could be a good thing to do as well. One other strategy for staying focused is to make sure that every practice session you have very specific goals that you're going to be working on. Your teacher is going to help you pick out some of those goals. You're going to have short-term goals like learning your E major scale. You're going to have long-term goals like being able to play a concerto memorized or being able to articulate faster. And so with long-term goals, you really want to just plug away at those a little bit every day. But with short-term goals, these are the things that you can focus on really heavily in individual practice sessions. Really focus on that goal and that goal alone. If you achieve that goal, it's okay to move on to another goal, but don't move on from it until you achieve it. Once you work through a passage or an idea in music and you feel like, okay, I got through that, then reflect on it and think, did I make it better? Did this work? Did I really achieve what I came here to set out to do? And if the answer is no, it might be a good idea to think, how can I fix that? Can I go back and make it better in some way and be creative about it? Being in a practice room is all about being creative and coming up with new ways to fix things. And of course, your teacher is going to give you strategies, or you may hear your friends also talk about strategies they use in a practice room which really work for them. The next thing is, maybe you've done a passage 10 times and just nothing seems to really be working, and you really just don't want to do it anymore, and you don't feel like you can get through it, and you don't feel like you can get through it specifically very effectively anymore. The best thing at that point might to be either to move on to something else if you feel like you can focus on some other task, or to just take a rest, take a break, go grab a sip of water, go take a little walk outside, clear your head, and then come back when you're more focused. So, another tip is to avoid overplaying things that you're really good at playing. We all love to play things that make us sound great in the practice room, but that's actually not very beneficial to our practice. So make sure you're working on things that you can't play quite yet. If you play stuff that you can play already, of course you feel very good about yourself, but it eats into that time where we can stay focused, and it also eats into the amount of time that we can sustain our embouchure, or that we can keep our fingers moving without and avoid injury. Another tip before you start practicing is to make sure you always have all your tools ready. So your tools for effective practicing. We've all been there. We've run to the practice room and we realize, oh no, I forgot my music at home. And you have to go all the way back home, and you may not even get to have that practice session. So make sure before you leave home or you leave your dorm that you've got everything you need. So for instance, make sure you have your music. Make sure you have a pencil. Make sure you have your instrument, that's very important. Make sure you have your reeds. If you need reeds to play your instrument, make sure you have your mouthpieces, your bow, your rosin, etc. Some other things that I personally like to take with me into a practice room is a practice journal. I like to keep that with me so I can make notes. Say I got Mendelssohn Scherzo up to dotted quarter note equals 60. yesterday, and the goal is to get it up to dotted quarter equals 80, and then in today's practice session I got it up to dotted quarter equals 64, I can write that down so that when I come back tomorrow I don't forget where I left off. Second thing, or another thing, excuse me, that I like to have is a Bluetooth speaker. You don't have to buy a really expensive one. You can buy really cheap ones at like Walmart. You can kind of use your phone too, but for some instruments you play way louder than the phone, so then it doesn't work so well. I use this when I'm doing intonation work with drones so that I can really hear if I'm in tune. I also do it if I can't rehearse with my pianist. Say my pianist just doesn't have time to rehearse with me until the week before a performance. I can usually find just a piano reduction of my piece, and so I can play along with it to get some ideas for how the piece is supposed to go. Or if I really don't like to listen to my metronome, then I can't avoid listening to it if I just turn this way up. Another thing I like to bring into every practice session and lesson with me is my recording device. I find that sometimes when I was younger, I would be in a lesson with a teacher and they would say, yeah, play it like that. You get that? You know how that sounds? And I would nod my head, yes, but I didn't really know how to replicate it in the practice room. So if I recorded my lesson the next day or later on in that afternoon, I could go back with a cup of coffee, I could sit down with my practice journal, and I could take notes on what went well in the lesson and actually really reflectively listen to when I played something incorrectly and when I played it correctly and my teacher said, yes, that's the way you're supposed to do it. And that helped tune my ear up so that then I could replicate that in the practice room. Okay, so just to summarize, here's the things that we talked about in general practice strategies and tips. Always stay focused, always have a goal, and always make sure you have all the tools you need to be successful for that practice session. So the next time you go into a practice room, before you start practicing, sit down and think, what's my goal for today? What can I accomplish in this short amount of time that I have in a practice session? How am I going to stay focused? How long can I stay focused? Do I have everything I need to be successful in this practice session so that I don't get distracted part of the way through? And then finally, how can I be creative? How can I come up with new solutions to fix my current practice problems?